Hey guys, it's Lucas Gaylord, and it's finally here, the first place deck profile for Union XYZ featuring Obelisk. Now this deck won the Justice tournament, and it almost stopped in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy if it wasn't for the fact that the last round went into time, and then almost all my opponents dropped, so my tiebreaker got magically lowered at the last second. But yeah, still, what I'm trying to say is that I'm very confident that this is a good deck. It's very well built. And before we get started, I want to give credit where credit is due, because this deck was inspired by a user who got top 4 in the $500 tournament, and his name is Shrink. Now, he played a Union build that was slightly different from what people were playing at the time. And I completely agreed with his decisions, and so I went with his build, but I modified, I made a side deck from scratch. But yeah, so starting off with the skill, Union Combination. Now this skill is great because it allows you to fuse from either the monster zone or the graveyard, and so not only that, but it also actually performs the summon, which means that you have an open game state thanks to the skill rulings. So this card is really good in that sense. But yeah, very standard skill. That's the skill you should be playing. But yeah, next off, the monsters. I play only 2 Excited Cannons, and the reason I agree that 2 is better than 3 is because you don't always wanna normal summon Excited Cannon. You sometimes want to summon Y when you have Union Hanger. So for that reason, I stick to 2 in order to see them enough, but not to see them every time. But yeah, next up we have 2 White Dragon Heads. And now this card is really amazing if you have Union Hanger, because you search it by Union Hanger, then you summon it, and then you equip a Z. So this is the card that you want to normal summon. But I only play 2, again, because, and the other reason I only play 2 Excited Cannons is because I'd rather use the deck slot to use other cards that may be useful and not be filled by XYZ pieces. But yeah, next up we have 3 Zs. Now the reason I do play 3 Zs, and it goes back to Shrink, because the reason was that Union Hanger, if you normal summon this card while Union Hanger is on the field and you equip a Z, you get a +1. Now it happens every time you normal summon or special summon. So if you special summon with Scramble, or if you normal summon another, you can still get +1s with the effect if you max out on Z. And then another thing is that sometimes you're gonna draw into C, and then that means that you will only use Union Hanger to equip only once. So yeah, this maximizes the +1s. So really big brain from Shrink there. And then the last monster is Sphere Karibo. Now, the difference between me and Shrink is that Shrink plays 2 Sphere Karibos in order to avoid the conflict OTK. I only play 1, and the reason isn't even because of conflict, but because of Spellproof Armor. And this card is great against Spellproof Armor, but it does nothing outside blocking an attack. So because of this, I only play 1 and not more. Next off we have 3 Union Hangers. And Union Hanger is really great because that's the card that will that's the skeleton of your deck, because you open the game, you activate Union Hanger, you search for a Y, summon Y, equip Z, and you're already started. Now, once they die, you use the skill, then you fuse, and then you have access to Scramble. So this card is the combo starter of your deck, so you need to play 3, otherwise you shouldn't even play the deck. But yeah, really great card. Next off, again, thanks to Shrink, I play only one Foolish Burial. Now, Foolish Burial is great because it gives you access to pieces that you need in order to fuse. But the problem is that the card by itself does nothing to stop your opponent. So if I play many copies, sometimes I'm gonna wish I had a book or another piece of back row. And the other problem is that it commits you to fusion summoning more often, and that's not really good when your opponent can side cards like Lost Wind. So yeah, because of this, I agree that only one is fine enough. It's been consistent enough like this. And again, I don't need to fuse every single time. I don't need to fuse into XYZ Dragon Cannon that early, because I have other plays. But yeah, and this is again where I changed from Shrink, because I played 3 Book of Moons instead of 2. And so the reason I play 3 Book of Moons and 1 Sphere Karibo instead of 2 and 2 is because I like Sphere Karibo, but Book of Moon to me is a lot better. It stops annoying things like, for example, Kaiko Dogu's Destroyer, Jinso if you want to use Scramble, Banish Other Radiance. It could also stop your opponent's XYZ Dragon Cannon. It can do a lot for you. And the reason I love Book of Moon and why I think that 3 is necessary between main and side deck is because this card, and what I learned from that tournament is that this card makes Lost Wind mean nothing. So if you use the effect of XYZ and you chain Book of Moon to a Lost Wind is not going to do anything. Or you can use Book of Moon on a monster that has already been affected by Lost Wind, and then you just flip it over and Lost Wind is no longer affecting your monster. So yeah, Book of Moon, really great card. It helps you stop conflict plays. It really does a lot for you, and it also protects you from offerings or any card that's gonna destroy you. It also stops your opponent from summoning Y and then equipping Z. So really great card. And then next off, 2 Offerings to the Doom. And now the reason why I like 2 Offerings to the Doom is because I think 3 is too excessive, especially because if your opponent chains a Book of Moon, then not only did he protect the monster, but you still get to skip your draw phase, and that can be really deadly. Trust me, like a lot of times when that's happened, I lose the game. So you have to be very careful. You have to watch out for the back row. So if they just set that back row, then you know there's a good chance that the Book of Moon had been set that turn, so you can be safer using offerings. But still, it can help you out a lot. For example, it can destroy Zomas, which are annoying. It can destroy Kaiser Glider. It can also stop an OTK play. It can destroy a Moth. It can destroy Jinso. It really does a lot for you. And so between 3 Book of Moons and 2 Offerings, you have a lot of protection. And then there's the 1 Sphere Karibo. But yeah, that's it for the spells. And then lastly, for the traps, we have, of course, 3 Union Scrambles. And Union Scrambles are necessary because that's the card that's gonna win you the game. Because Union Hanger sets up the place, but Union Scramble, it gives you at most a +3, because it can bring 3 monsters, and then it also banishes from the graveyard and gives you 1 into the hand. So it's a really great card. It's so good that if your opponent is winning the game, and you have one Union Scramble, but it's live, you can definitely turn the game around. Definitely. Like, it doesn't matter if he's winning, by how much he's winning. As long as you have one live Union Scramble, there's a possibility to turn the game around. But yeah, that's the main deck. Again, I want to shout out to Shrink. And now the extra deck, starting off by YZs, because that's the card that you're gonna have the access most of the time, because you summon Y with Union Hanger and then you equip Z, so you already have access to summoning this. So I play 2. A lot of people play 2. I think this is the right choice. Fun fact: you can use Book of Moon. You can use Book of Moon, flip a monster face down, and then use this effect to destroy it. So yeah, good card. It has a good defense. It has a decent attack, and yeah, I think there's nothing much to say. Next up, we have one XZ, and this card is decent, right? You're not gonna want to summon it a lot, so that's why I only play 1. You prefer either this card or XYZ, but it's still necessary to have access to this in order to have more plays. But yeah, next off, and this is alright. So I played 3 XYZ Dragon Cannon, but the reason I played 3 was because I wanted to have a card I wanted to have a way to have an upper edge against the mirror match, and I think that if I had 3 XYZs, I had a better chance to beat the mirror match. But since I played Obelisk, this is no longer necessary, so I changed my build right now. Obviously not in the tournament, but I changed my build to 2 XYZ Dragon Cannon, because this is the boss monster, this is the card that you need, this is the card that's gonna win you most of the games. So I play 2, and then 1 XY, just in case I need it, because I've had scenarios where I summon this card, and then my opponent uses Book of Moon, and then the only other card I have is this card and this card. And because I can't even fuse, because I didn't add this to the extra deck, this card is dead, and then this card is going to be dead as soon as this card dies by battle, because it doesn't have that great of stats. So I changed my build right now to play one of these, because I have Obelisk for the mirror match. But yeah, this said, let's go to the side deck. So let's address the elephant in the room, or let's say the god in the room, Obelisk, because Obelisk is my personal choice for a spicy tech. The reason I decided to play Obelisk was because Obelisk is really good if your opponent has no outs to it. The problem with the current format is that Twisted Personality and Inner Conflict can easily destroy Obelisk because it doesn't target. So because of this reason, it's not a good idea to play it in the main deck, in my opinion. But I still play it in the side deck because I know that there are decks that can't out the Obelisk. And how easy can you summon Obelisk? Very easy, because one Union Scramble can give you access to 3 monsters in order to summon Obelisk. And then the question is, what decks do you side this against? So the most obvious answer is the mirror match. The mirror match cannot deal with an Obelisk. And so a lot of times, if I summon this against the mirror match, I win the game. So this is why this was a spicy tech for the tournament. Another way you can play this is if you play against Spellproof Armor. because they usually can't out this unless they have widespread ruin, but you can obviously play around it, and you have ways to destroy with your XYZ Dragon Cannon. So these two cards are really deadly against a lot of matchups. You can also do it against Moth, and then Moth Parasite can't even target this, but you have to be careful with Soma. Lastly, you can also use it against Inner Conflict, because once they've used the skill, they have no way to out this. The problem is that because this card could be a brick, it gives them a chance to OTK you. So you have to be really careful. But the fact that you only play one copy on your side deck means that you won't always see the card early game. You will most likely see it mid to late game. So that's why this card could be good. Next off, we have Sphere Karibo. Now the reason I play a second Sphere Karibo, shout out to Ninjetti, because Ninjetti explained to me that Spellproof Armor could be a real pain against this deck, and so I have one Sphere Karibo in order to be able to counter their Jinso or their Clausulas, because I have 5 spells that are gonna be dead against Spellproof Armor. So I should be playing at least a way around this deck. Because I haven't mentioned it yet, but in case you haven't noticed, most of the main deck is to play against Conflict. But yeah, I'll explain more in detail later. Next up, we have Cosmic Cyclone, and this card is very versatile because it could be good against Soma, it could be good against Magnets, it could be good against Mirror Match, it could be good against many cards. Parasite, Parasite, Union, Soma. So you can side this card whenever you want. It could also out the Lost Winds. So yeah, I only play one because 1000 life points is harsh, and I really don't have other space. So I only play one, but it's a really great card. It's really helped me a lot. And then lastly, we still play two Lost Winds, because the problem is that if you go against XYZ Mirror Match, even if you have Obelisk, if you don't have Lost Wind, you're probably gonna lose before you even have a chance to summon Obelisk. So you still should play 2 Lost Winds. You can also play it against Magnets. I'll go to that later. But yeah, 2 Lost Winds, very standard, and that's the reason why you still play Lost Wind even if you have Obelisk. Because the reason you have Obelisk, the reason you have this, is because you want to guarantee your win against the Mirror Match. So you need the 2 Lost Winds. Lastly, this is the skill side, Spellproof Armor. Why Spellproof Armor? Because there's one deck that can still be a huge pain, and that's the Magnets. Now, the Magnets, they have the Magnetic Field spell that can bounce any monster you have. So Obelisk is useless. XYZ Dragon Cannon can be bounced. So this card helps you be immune to that. And the other reason why this card can be good is because all the offerings, all the Book of Moons are gonna be useless. And then not only that, but because you're gonna be fusing less, because this skill doesn't allow you to fuse as much as this skill. So because of that, you're gonna have more normal summon monsters. So if your opponent has Lost Wind, they're gonna be relying on Lost Wind way less if you have this skill instead of this one. So what matchups do I use this against? Magnets, probably Moth sometimes, but you have to remember that it's not that good against Moth because Moth can use the skill on themselves. But yeah, Moths maybe, Magnets, and then if you see a deck that plays a lot of spells, As long as your normal summon can beat their monsters, then you should be fine. So yeah, this is the side deck. And now one last thing. How do I side? This is very easy. If I play against magnets, then what do I have? I have this, I have this, I have this, and then what do I have to side out? So I have to take out I have to take out my Sphere Karibo because it's going to kill my skill, and the other card I have to take out is my Foolish Burial. So this is the swap that I make against magnets. If I go against, for example, unions, I put this card in, I put this card, I put this card, and I put this card. So these 4 cards against unions. So what do I take out? I usually take out Sphere Karibo. I can take out one of the sea metal tanks, and then I can take out the 2 offerings to the Doom. But yeah, against conflict, I can usually take out Sphere Karibo for Cosmic Cyclone, or I can take out a Z metal tank, and I could put Cyclone or even Obelisk if I feel spicy. If I play Moth, I can certainly use Cyclone, maybe Obelisk, and then if I play, what was the other deck? Yeah, I think that's all the decks. Oh, and Twisted Personality Warriors is a really strong matchup against this one. But yeah, you have to be careful that because Soma and Wheel can be really strong against you. So yeah, Twisted Personality has been a really tough matchup, but still I would still keep this build as it is until I feel that I have to take more action. If that's the case, then I'm open to playing a 1 Jinso. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for rooting for me. And I guess Obelisk has a legitimate place in the meta. Thank you, guys. Take care.